Give him something tonight, okay? Cash, checks, I don't know. Do you take credit cards, Senator? Oh, no. Senator, come on, yeah. Oh, tell me that.
Time out.
Okay,
Sorry.
I gotta know that.
I cannot take cash.
Oh, okay.
It's illegal. Whoever gave the $100, I can't have it. You can write me a check. So, Darren went to get the envelopes. So we have to have your information if you're going to write me a check. We'll be glad to take it. You can go online and do it as well. It's very simple. If you want to write a check, we'll get you the information. Thank you.
Here are the signs. I see some signs coming in right over there. Wonderful.
BrianDahle.com.
Tammy said she'll take your cash. All right. Well, we are going to enjoy another wonderful speaker, and it is so great to have you here tonight, Steve. We've kept it a surprise, right? Okay, that was the deal. He'd come if it's a surprise. So I want him to know, kept us honest, all right? So I have watched the next, I don't know how many years you've been on, I'll let you talk about it, but I just love The Next Revolution. I love to hear him. His mind is just amazing. And I saw him writing notes, so I can hardly wait till he's going to say what those notes are tonight. But it is a delight to have him with us. Let's welcome Steve Hilton, The Next Revolution.
Evening, everyone. Welcome to the California Revolution. I had to put my jacket on for the Republican women. You've got to make an effort, right? What about these Republican women? What about this? I don't know. The picture taking. How about that, Brian? That was something. A lot of smiling. I don't think I've smiled so much since maybe my wedding day or when my 2 children were born. Amazing. So lovely to see you all. And by the way, doesn't it show you can't really ever tell freedom-loving people what to do? The situation there with the campus. We try to organize it, but really, people who love freedom, they're not going to be bossed around. It is wonderful to be here. I hear all the time, you hear the media talk constantly, when they talk about the Democratic Party and women in the Democratic, they say black women are the bedrock of the Democratic Party. Maybe that's true, I have no idea, not involved with them. But it's very clear from being here tonight, all women, not black women, not white women, not Latino women, not Asian women, all women are the bedrock of this Republican Party. All Republican women are great. All Republican women are equal. It's great to see you all. It really is. And it made me think, as I was on my way here, I was thinking about, I suppose you wouldn't say a Republican woman, but certainly a great conservative woman that I had the great honor of meeting. As you know, I hope, by now, I'm an American now, proud American. As of last year, I still have an accent from somewhere else. I know. They say it makes you sound smart, whatever. I'll probably stick with it. So obviously I grew up in the UK, but my family, many of you may know this as well, are from Hungary. Both my parents are Hungarian. Most of my family's still there. As a child, I experienced what it was like for them living under communism in Hungary. Not living there, but visiting there. So I got a sense of it. I learned the language. I speak Hungarian. And so now I come to that great conservative woman that I had the honor of meeting many, many years ago, when I first started out working in politics. Someone you have certainly heard of, called Margaret Thatcher. Yep. Exactly. There you go. An amazing, amazing political leader in so many ways. But my first meeting with her as a kid who just joined the Conservative Party, working in the Conservative Party headquarters in London, straight out of college. And it was 1990, and it was the year of just after all the regime changes in Eastern Europe, the fall of the Soviet Union, all those countries in Eastern Europe became free. And so many of those leaders felt incredibly strongly inspired by Mrs. Thatcher, by President Reagan, by the two of them together who fought so strongly for freedom. They're very inspired by them, and they said they would like to come and say thank you. Now, quite far to travel to the US, coming to England not so far, so that year, 1990, it was my first year attending a Conservative Party conference, as they call it, a convention. My first year. It was actually Mrs. Thatcher's last year. And I had the great honor of meeting her because among the delegates from Eastern Europe, the newly free Eastern European countries, was a Hungarian delegation. The Prime Minister, a couple of other ministers from the government, and because, you know, it's politics and everything's always on a shoestring, someone said, wait a minute, isn't there that kid that worked in the research department who's Hungarian? Does he speak Hungarian? Maybe we don't have to hire an interpreter for the Hungarians. Let's have him do it. And that is how I first met Margaret Thatcher. Wow. To translate the wishes of the Hungarian delegation, to say thank you to her for inspiring them. And I was amazingly, in that meeting, I'll never forget one thing she said that reminds me of what's going on here, particularly in California today. A very unlikely thing, because especially towards the end of her premiership, Mrs. Thatcher became no fan of Europe. Very much arguing with Europe and the European nations within the EU all the time. In fact, she got in trouble, I remember when it was the anniversary of the French Revolution, and she had everyone else was fawning about the French Revolution. She was very critical of the French Revolution. And she said, no, I think the American Revolution, that's the one we should be for, not the French Revolution. We'd all say that. But amazingly, she spoke these words. We were talking about something with these leaders. She spoke some words in French. And this phrase stuck with me. And I looked it up and I tried to understand what she meant. She was talking about the way that intellectuals and people who've benefited from freedom and prosperity and all these things get on in life, they get to a position of power, and then they betray the exact things that got them to that point. Yes. And the phrase was le trahison des clercs, my best French accent, le trahison des clercs. It kind of means the betrayal of the intellectuals. I think that is so much a part of what we're seeing now, because we live now in a world where the intellectuals decide that there's no science anymore, there's no arguing about facts. Whatever they say goes, whether it's true or false. The groupthink is all that matters. Can't argue with it, can't challenge it. All the principles that created America, that created the prosperity. Look at Stanford University, just down the road. I taught at Stanford University the first year that I was here. Look at the way that they crush brave doctors like Professor Bhattacharya, who spoke out against the madness of the lockdowns. Yep. And the home of intellectual inquiry, so-called, crushes those people. That is the betrayal of the intellectuals. And where it ends up, to use that same word, intellectual, which hardly even applies to them anymore, really. Reminds me of a phrase by a writer you may have come across called Nassim Taleb, who I have met and enjoyed many conversations with. He has a brilliant phrase that I think captures a lot of what's going on now, using that word intellectual. He said, nowadays, the ruling class, the governing class, he has an acronym for it, IYI, intellectual yet idiot. And honestly, is there a better description of what is going on now? Just look at something. Brian gave some of the examples quite rightly. Just look at these people here in California, just to pick a few random examples. I mean, they're constantly lecturing everyone about governance. Do you remember when President Trump was there and it's all, oh, it's terrible, these people don't know about governance. We need the adults, the grown-ups back in the room who really understand how to make government, not like Trump, who, by the way, had more accomplishments, despite everything that was ranged against him, than most presidents in American history. Oh no, we know about governance. Oh really? Well, let's look at these IYIs, the intellectual yet idiots in charge of us. Have you heard of the bullet train?
In California.
Have you heard the bullet train? Have you heard the bullet train whooshing up and down the state, gliding along the coast as it transports people between Los Angeles and San Francisco in the vision of the bright green new future. Now, of course you haven't heard it, because it's a total joke. They promised it would be open by 2020, $30 billion. What is it now? They're saying 2030 for $130 billion, more than 4 times as much, 10 years late. There's an investigation by the New York Times, I don't know if you saw that, saying that at the present rate of progress, it will be open perhaps by the end of the century. My favorite bit in this investigation, going back to France. France actually has a very well-developed high-speed rail network, one of the best in the world. It's a smaller country, it works there, whatever, that's great. They hired the French rail company to come and help them with the route and everything, and they were here, the French rail company, SNCF. After a couple of years, they walked off the project. They said, we can't deal with this anymore. This is what happened. They said, we are heading to North Africa, where the climate is less politically dysfunctional. That's California. More dysfunctional than North Africa. By the way, after leaving the California project around 2011, 2012, they went to Morocco. Morocco's high-speed rail opened for service in 2018. I mean, this is these people who think they're so good at running, it's unbelievable. Look at the water. I mean, you can go on and on. I mean, look at what they're doing with the water. You know, we have all the infrastructure, the engineering to store up the water in the wet years, use it in the dry years. No, they don't want to do that. They flush it out to the ocean to save a fish that's practically non-existent. Look at the energy policy. You touched on it, Brian. Importing foreign oil from, as you say, Ecuador, Saudi Arabia, halfway across the world on tankers, the most polluting form of energy, of transportation. And they close down our industry here. And they tell us we have to go all electric cars, you can't drive a gas car, so we're going to make them more reliant on less reliable sources of energy because they only have wind and solar, which they also have to import the electricity because that's not reliable. And as if that's not enough, it's not just the cars, they want to electrify everything. Cookers now, you can't cook with gas. That's real. I thought it was a joke. It started in Berkeley. We talked about Berkeley either. The Berkeley, very proud that all these ideas start there. Well, they were the first. Petaluma, by the way, they were the first to ban new gas stations. Did you know that? There you are. No more gas stations, no more cooking with, you can't fill your car up, can't cook with gas. Gas boilers, that was the latest one. It goes on and on. These people, and it makes no sense, it's totally incoherent, even on its own terms, doesn't help with emissions, makes people poorer, total disaster. This is what we have. IYI, intellectual yet idiot. So why are they like this? Why are they like this? And partly it's incompetence. And there's a strong element of corruption, exactly as Brian said, certainly with the train. I mean, they've got this crazy route that's delayed the whole thing. Why? Because of the donations from construction companies that are all in on the project. And they don't care whether it works or not as long as they get the money. They give the money to the legislators, they do the route. This is how, there's corruption everywhere, the unions, as we all know. There's incompetence, there's corruption. But you know the real thing that's happened with these intellectuals that have taken over, these idiot intellectuals? It's become totally ideological. That's the deep point. They are now total ideologues. They are extreme, and they are ideologues, and they don't care about facts, and they don't care about evidence, and they don't care about results, and the real world, they're just ideologues. And they pander to their activists, on social media mainly, and all that matters is saying the right thing. We used to call it virtue signaling. I don't call it that anymore. There's nothing virtuous about it. It's ideology signaling. They are signaling their ideology. That's what is now driving these policies, but it is not. Do you remember Biden in that appalling speech in Philadelphia the other week? Good question, which one? A lot. You're right, many appalling. The one in Philadelphia, I call it the red rant. Do you remember with the... Do you remember right at the beginning he said, it's not normal. It's not normal, talking about the Republicans. the Republicans aren't normal. I mean, what do you call it when you have a party that supports letting violent criminals out of jail, that supports decriminalizing crime? That is extreme. What do you call it when you have a party and its union paymasters that supports turning our schools into indoctrination factories instead of education palaces, which is what they should be, with the results that we see, as Brian mentioned? What do you call it when you have a party that thinks it's okay, not just okay, but essential, to undermine the family, to sexualize children, to claim that men can get pregnant? That is extreme. It is extreme. I think any reasonable person would say that that is extreme. That's what we've got. And so here we come to the answer to all this, apart from making sure Brian Dahle is the next governor of California. That will solve a lot of problems very quickly. Yes. But that's not the end of it, as Brian knows better than most. You can't do it just from the governor's desk. You need the legislature, you need the other statewide positions, you need county boards, you need control, all of these positions, in the state, local, every level. Because it all adds up to this far left extremism we're seeing. And it's exactly as you say, I can't believe, by the way, we still are the 5th largest. Can you believe that? After everything they've done. That shows, by the way, what an amazing state this is, despite everything they've done to try and drive people away, drive business away, make it impossible to start and run a business, which I have done in this state. The bureaucracy, the taxes, the endless compliance, everything, the shutdowns. Still, we're the 5th largest economy. Imagine what we could be without all this crap. Exactly. And back to what I loved about this state from afar and was so proud of when I came here and thought, yes, I'm a Californian. I love this state. And the idea that it represents, all those things that we all feel. It's not just the physical beauty, of course, or the weather, of course, that's all true. But it's that idea of California, the California dream, the fact that everyone in the world once used to think of California as the absolute embodiment of innovation and optimism, the future, the dream. That's California, ruined by them, still there in the hearts of Californians. And that's what we need to unleash. That's what we need to get back to. It's still there. People don't want this. Most people in California do not want what we've got. You talk to anyone, Republican, Independent, Democrat, and you ask them, is this state well run? They'll laugh at you. No one can say with a straight face that this is a well-run state. No one. People don't want what we've got. Change is going to come, but we need to work for it. And the way we do it is to be the opposite of them. They are ideological, we have to be practical. They are extreme, we have to be common sense. That's what it's all about. That's why Brian is exactly the right person for this moment. You can't listen to Brian and think you're listening to an ideologue. You're listening to someone who knows the state, understands the issues, has worked on them for years, has got the practical ideas to put things right. And that is true across all our fantastic candidates. Look at Lani Chen. Look at Nathan Hochman, Lance Christensen, for education. I mean, it's an uphill struggle for all of them, but we have to support them. We have to support them. They're exactly what we need. And it may not happen overnight at every level of the state. As I've said, we need to work at all these elected offices, but people don't want what we've got. And in the end, that will win out. As long as we remember to be not like them, as long as we are practical, we are common sense, we are the people coming forward with the solutions to the problems people face in their daily lives. And speaking of practical, I have a practical suggestion too. I'm not going to ask you to send me money. I'm not going to take your money, send it to Brian. But I am going to do a little quiz, if you don't mind, of a very practical nature. So I want everyone to raise their hands if you want change in California. Now, keep them up. Now, keep your hand up if you listen every day to the Daily California, my podcast. What? What are you talking? There's someone. One. What? Two. 1.5. What are we talking about? If we want change, we have to get engaged. We have to start building that movement. We have to get together and fight for the change. That's what I'm doing with this. My little way. I can't do anything else at the moment. That's what I'm focused on. We have Brian on. We have candidates from all across the state. We have the people who are fighting for change. I really, really mean it. We've got to build this movement. It's not going to be easy, but we're going to do it because people want to stay and fight like you do, like I do. So here's the practical request that I have. Could you please go to a website called Steve Hilton's Rebel Base. There you are, no apostrophe. And sign up for our email. Brian talked about email, very important. And then you won't miss out on our episodes. The show is called The Daily California. Please join us, because we are here, we are fighting, and one day, maybe very soon, we will win. Thank you very much.